friends, welcome back to the channel and welcome to my March check-in about my low buy / no buy year and how it's going for me. How, has it been hard? Has it been easy? What have I learned? Just different things like that. So we're going to talk about March. Please don't forget this is a collaboration with Melissa Adams Wade. I will have her video for March linked below. We each do a monthly check-in, so make sure to check out Melissa's video. If you are interested in what is on my face, I did a get ready with me before I started filming. So I filmed that because the Sephora sale is coming up on April 5th. And so I wanted to let you know what my favorite products are, because I will not be shopping the sale, obviously, except if there are perhaps one or two items that I do not have any backups of and do not have any similar product to, but I don't really think that's going to happen. But anyway, yeah, so if you're interested in this look, like I said, that video will probably be up tomorrow, so on Tuesday. So anyway, with that, let's get into my March check-in. All right, so let's start out with, I guess in general, how March was for me. And I would say in general, March was a good month. I wasn't super tempted. I had something written down in my notes app about a pair of Old Navy white jeans, and I didn't make any other notes to go along with that. And I don't really know what that meant. I assume it was something that I saw scrolling that I was interested in, maybe even went so far as putting it in my cart, but I can tell you I didn't purchase anything from Old Navy. So not really sure, like I said, what that referenced. I do want to follow up on something that I talked about in my February check-in, which was this whole idea of not going through shopping type exercises or shopping behaviors and limiting it to maybe a certain time of the week. This came from a video that Hannah Louise Poston has done. What she was doing, which I found really brilliant, and what I shared with you all, is if she thinks of something. So let's say, for example, we'll talk about this, okay? I am down to one glass straw, which, is not earth-shattering, but the fact of the matter is I do use them on a daily basis, so to have to clean them every day. So I might think to myself, oh, a couple of those broke, I really need to replace those. I might go on Amazon, put it, in the cart or whatever, and then just leave it. That's literally all you do. I'm not going to go research which ones have the best reviews or which one is the best bargain or whatnot. I'm just going to sort of put a pin in it, kind of, and that way you can come back to it at another time. So I've been trying to use that throughout the month of March, and I have to say it really has made a difference. So I would highly recommend, if you are somebody who is trying to be more mindful about what they are spending, that some of those things can really add up and make a big difference. And I'm going to go into kind of another concept of something that I saw that's somewhat similar, but that may be more for maybe some of the things that you are maybe on your no buy or low buy list that may help as well. So I would definitely recommend using that little trick of deferring the actual purchase until another time, where you can look at things really in the aggregate and decide, okay, are those things that we really need, or is that just super fun right at the time? So the next two things that I'm going to talk about are actually two TikToks that I saw by two different creators, and I assume I can link them below. We'll certainly try. One is by Mel Robbins, and these are both creators that I follow mostly from, Mel talks about health things, she talks about financial things, she has a podcast, she's very, very well known, but especially as a woman in the middle of her life, Mel talks about a lot of things that are very meaningful to me, I guess. So she had somebody on her podcast, and they made a little TikTok of that section of the podcast. And again, I will try to link it below. And basically the person, and I have this written down here, basically wants you to ask anytime you're thinking about buying something, ask these 4 questions. Do I need it? Do I love it? Do I want it? And do I like it? And so you can kind of think of these, and I'll put up a little diagram that I'll make, sort of 4 quadrants of a square, right? So you have need, love, want, and like, okay? And what the guest on the podcast was saying is that she really likes to try to stay as much as possible in the need and the love quadrants, and not so much in the want and the like. So a need is just what it sounds like, right? Is a basic need. Now, you need to be honest with yourself, right? The, $100 blush or whatever is not a need, okay? You need to be honest with yourself. Needs are, food, water, shelter, those kind of things. Clothing, obviously, but again, that can be a little iffy depending on what the item is. But I think everybody knows something that's needed for your basic survival, okay? Do I love it? A love is something that will bring you joy a year from now, okay? So something that when you buy it, you absolutely brings you joy every time you look at it. And even a year from now, that item still absolutely brings you joy. For me, for example, that's my Birkin 30. Like, every single time I look at that item, it makes me happy, it makes me smile. I would put my Fendi mohair baguette in that category. I absolutely love those bags. They still bring me joy over a year after having purchased them. A like, what is a like? A like is a temporary joy that, 6 months later, you're probably like, oh yeah, that's cute. Like, you still sort of like it. But a year from now, you're probably thinking, God, I don't even remember buying that. And I don't know about you, but I used to have a lot of clothing in my wardrobe that fell into the like category. Lots and lots. In fact, this shirt might be one of them. And I do really like it. It's not a love, though. It's not something that's like gonna bring me joy a year from now. Now, I bought this, I think, 2 anniversary sales ago. So I've had it for a while, but it was definitely one of those where when I pulled it out of the storage wardrobe, I was like, oh, I forgot I had that shirt. So, we'll see whether it sticks around. As you know, I am not decluttering really anything that was in storage, especially for spring or summer, because I haven't had a chance to really wear those items yet since we didn't get them out until wintertime. So, but that's the idea of a like. And a want are those items that are those instant gratification items. So those to me, like Amazon purchases and TikTok shop purchases, are the epitome of a want, right? It is that just instant gratification, add to cart, check out, it's on your doorstep in 2 days because you have Amazon Prime, and that is a want. So the idea here is that really try to stay in the need, which is obviously seems pretty basic and clear, right? You need that item or something that you love. Now, obviously, you're still going to have some of those wants and you're still going to have some of those likes. But the idea is to focus, hopefully maybe 80-90% of your purchases to that need and love quadrants versus the like and want quadrants. So the next creator that I want to talk about is a woman named Paige, and she has a TikTok account called Overcoming Overspending. I think that's right. Yes, Overcoming Overspending. She also has a podcast. I did sort of a free course that she has. I haven't done anything beyond that, but she does a daily, what she calls her daily dose of de-influencing, which I really like. So I'm subscribed to her account, channel, I don't know, whatever you call them on TikTok. And so every day I see, one of her new little videos. And one of them that I watched was about something that's called Hedonic Adaptation. And the idea is that after any positive or negative event, your happiness, whether it be super high because of a positive experience or super low because of a negative experience, will ultimately come back to your baseline level of happiness. And so again, I'll pop up kind of a graph over here to show you that. But the idea is that your happiness kind of goes like this, right? Depending on whether something really amazing happens. So, somebody gives you a birthday gift and that's just super happy. But then eventually and very quickly, you come back down to that baseline level of happiness. And then if you have something that, is negative in your life, let's say, somebody passes away or whatnot, obviously you're going to go low, but eventually then you come back up to that baseline level of happiness. So the idea here is that when we tie our happiness to a thing, if I buy that new house, then I'll be happy. If I buy that new expensive car, then I'll be happy. If I buy this handbag, I will be happy. When you do that, it's going to have the same effect, right? So in other words, yes, you're going to have a temporary spike or increase in your level of happiness when you buy that certain item, but very quickly, you're going to come right back down to your baseline happiness. So the idea here is that, the novelty of that item wears off and then it just becomes ordinary. So, how many of us in this community have purchased something that we think is amazing, but then you see us selling it 6 months or a year later? And that's because it was amazing at the time we bought it. But then after a while, and maybe after accumulating some other things, we realized that first item that we bought, it's not bringing us as much joy. And that may be because you were thinking that item was going to bring you some sort of like heightened or long-lasting happiness when it just doesn't. So the idea here is that if you find yourself saying, if I buy X, I will be happy, that should be a huge red flag in your mind that you shouldn't buy that particular item, because it's not going to bring you a continued and constant heightened level of happiness. You may still like it, but it's going to be now on your baseline. It's not going to give you that sort of euphoric sense of happiness that you got when you first got it. And then what she talked about is that this hedonic adaptation then leads to what some people call the hedonic treadmill, which is the idea is of it happening over and over again. So you keep doing the same thing because you keep thinking that the next thing that you buy is going to be that thing that brings you this ultimate level of happiness, but it never does. And so you just, like I said, like on a treadmill, you just keep going and going and thinking, oh, well, that's going to be the thing that makes me amazingly happy. And it just doesn't. Because things or goods, generally, your level of happiness depreciates. Whereas then she talked about experiences, which in general do bring longer lasting sense of happiness. So your level of happiness in relation to an experience generally appreciates. And the reason being is that it generally, you have memories and you're able to look back on things. Maybe you're able to look back on photographs, and you have that consistent reminder of how happy and what an amazing time you had during that experience, and it brings you that joy over again. Now, maybe that's why when you buy something, when you are on an experience, those items tend to maybe have an appreciated instead of a depreciated sense of happiness to you. So for example, my Birkin that I got in Paris, it's not only that I love my Birkin and I just think it's an amazing bag and it makes me smile every time I look at it, but every time I use it and every time I look at it, I am reminded of our trip to Paris, how David went above and beyond in order to get me a leather appointment at the FSH store. And just all of those things come back every time I look at it. So I think that's an interesting concept that she didn't talk about, but came to mind for me, that when we do purchase items that are tied to a certain experience, that those particular items tend to bring us happiness for longer and more happiness in general. So the last thing I want to talk about is, again, from Paige at Overcoming Overspending. And I do believe that this actually came from that kind of mini course I took. It's free. If you can find it on her page. Like I said, you don't pay for it, but it's about an hour and I really enjoyed it, listening to it. But I think one of the best things that I got out of it was something that she calls an urge jar. So the idea here is that you have, some kind of vessel, I guess, or maybe two vessels, one that's holding all of the items, and she recommended 100. And they don't have to be anything big or meaningful or anything. You could have 100 paper clips in there. You could have 100 little pieces of paper, which to me sounds a little more appealing because of what I'm going to talk about. But you have two jars or two vessels, whatever it is. You could just have a bowl or a cup, whatever they are. And you've got 100 in here, and then you have one that's empty. And this is the urge jar. And the idea is that every time you have the urge to buy something, you take one of those items out of the full jar and you move it over into the urge jar. The idea of it being something like, oh, I want that you put that in the urge jar. And the reason why I like the idea of using little pieces of paper is because you can write what the item is and what the amount is. Because what I think would be great to use at the end of it, so basically what you do is after if you had 100 in here and now they're all moved to here, is you go back and you're able to see what those items were. So I guess if you use paper clips or items or something, you'd want to then use sort of your notes app or an Excel spreadsheet or something that you can write what the item was and what it cost. And what I think it would be amazing then is to go back and look at all of the things that you instantly were in that want, right? We're in that just instant gratification kind of thing. Now, some of them may fall into the like and even love categories, but the idea of these are all the things that I was just ooh, I want to buy that. But then you think, oh, no, Lisa, you're on a no buy. So whatever those old Navy jeans were, I wanted to buy those. I should put that in my urge jar and then go back at the end, whatever that is. And maybe that's 2 weeks for you. Maybe it's 6 months for you. Who knows how long it takes you to get 100 urges from one vessel to another. But the idea is at the end of that time is you go back through and you're able to add up all of that money that you saved. So all of that money that you were instantly urged and you wanted to buy, but you didn't buy. So for me personally, I would use the urge jar as things that I wanted to buy, but I stopped myself from buying, to then really be able to go back and look and calculate, if I didn't have this, if I wasn't doing this no buy, and if I wasn't being very mentally focused and mindfully purchasing, this is what I would have spent. I would have spent, I'm throwing out a number here, $3,000 on these extraneous items 100 things that I didn't necessarily even need. They were a want. They were a like. So anyway, I just thought that was a great way to kind of look at it. So I think starting in April, I'm going to do that. I just recently listened to her seminar thing, so that came out of that. So I think I would like to start that for the month starting in April, and then see how long it takes me to get 100 urges that I might have bought that now I'm not going to buy. So yeah, just thought it was a fun thing. And I'm a very visual person, so seeing that move, like I said, from one jar to another would be very impactful for me. Well, that's it, my friends. That is my check-in for March. Again, not so much about really how I did. I didn't buy anything that I wasn't supposed to buy, but more about sort of some things that I learned this month that I think will be very beneficial to me as I move throughout the year. So I hope you found this enjoyable. Please leave comments down in the comment section as to how your no buy or low buy is going, or whatever else you might want to talk about, or if you've purchased something that you loved in the last month, let us know about that too. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. It does help the YouTube algorithm. And if you stuck it out till the end, I really appreciate that because that helps the algorithm even more. If you enjoy this kind of content, I would love it if you would join us here. Click the subscribe button and the notification bell. It does mean a lot to a creator when you subscribe to their channel, and there is absolutely no cost to you. And wherever you are, I hope you are having an amazing day or evening, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye, guys.